Hola. I'm going to do this presentation in English because my Spanish is a little bit lacking. But it's a pleasure to be here and talk about future technology in airplanes. My role at Boeing is that I lead the marketing team here in Europe. Our marketing team's a little bit different than what you're seeing in this trade conference. We know all of our customers really well, so most of what we do as marketers at Boeing is we work with our customers to understand what their future needs are. So in terms of what drives their business and the key things and problems that we can solve. Boeing is a technological company. Boeing is a company of engineers. We love to solve problems. And so the key thing is working with our customers and suppliers to understand what those problems are. And here in Europe, Boeing has had a presence for nearly 100 years, 80 years alone here in Madrid. We have a technology center here, of course, that has been here since 2002, and a very long relationship with airlines here going all the way back to the 1930s and 1940s. And it is that relationship that we draw from in order to develop technologies and apply those technologies to make air travel safer, more reliable, and more convenient. So just some quick things here. Here's our Boeing presence in Europe right now. We've almost got 4,000 or over 4,000 employees in Europe right now, spread around, and you'll see one of the key things here are our technology centers. And of course, the center here in Madrid, which was founded in 2002, has been developing quite a bit of technology for Boeing to be used in the future. And we also have a technology center in Munich now that's developing composite manufacturing techniques, and then one in Sheffield, the UK, which is developing avionics technology as well as actually manufacturing. We're just building a new plant there that will open in 2018. So the key thing with technology is there's a lot of technology out there, and what problem are we really trying to solve? We really need to understand what the problem is, and so that we can apply technology in an efficient way. And if you think about air travel is really interesting. The whole tourism sector here, to a certain extent, is on the foundation of safe, reliable, convenient air travel. And what this chart shows is that air travel is a growth industry. Going all the way back to the 1950s, it's taking 42 years to get to 1 billion travelers. Then it took 18 years to get to 2 billion, 8 years to get to 3 billion, and 4 years to get to 4 billion. So what you see here is you see a lot of growth, a lot of consistent growth. It's a growth industry, about 5% a year, and it grows and doubles about every 15 years. So how does that relate to technology? Well, to continue that growth, we need to apply technology because of the growth of air travel, consuming fuel, creating CO2, those kinds of things, we need to find ways to make air travel more efficient. And I'm just gonna, not to get into too much economics here, but fuel is a really big cost for airlines. So 30 to 40% of the total cost of your ticket when you fly is for fuel. And so it's really important for our airlines, and it's drives a lot of the cost. And because fuel and oil prices are very volatile, it can be very difficult for an airline to face the fuel costs. And so we apply a tremendous amount of our technology and our focus on reducing fuel consumption, which also makes the airplanes more environmentally efficient. And so that's really the problem that we're trying to solve here. And how do we do that? There's a few different ways here to reduce fuel consumption or increase the efficiency. There's ways you can apply the technology. The first way is on aerodynamics. So we're utilizing new technology on aerodynamics. Has anybody here flown on a 787? I've flown a 787. If you fly Air Europa, you may fly in a 787. We have used the latest technology to make the airplane much more aerodynamic. We use the technology in the carbon composites to make the airplane lighter and more efficient as well. And then the systems are also where you can apply the technology, and finally in the propulsion. So all of these things together are areas where we focus and apply technology to make air travel more efficient. And from an aerodynamic standpoint, if you're an airplane buff, you'll notice these things. We want to make the wing as long as possible and as thin as possible. That makes it more efficient. With the 787 wing, what we've done is we've applied all this technology that has developed over the years to do these types of things. Make the wing very long, very thin, advanced rake wingtips. We have, that gives us the high aspect ratio, and then the variable camber. This is just a lot of engineering talk for how we make the wing more efficient and the airplane more aerodynamic. The more aerodynamic, the less fuel it uses, the less CO2 it produces, and the lower cost. So that's a key element of it. And quite a bit of that is enabled by carbon fiber technology. If you go to the Air Europa stand, you can go and you can see a section of the fuselage. It's really amazing. I really encourage you to go do that because you can get a feel for this material, carbon fiber. It's very, very strong and up to 30% lighter than metals. In the past, airplanes were made out of metals. So now we're making airplanes out of carbon fiber. And what that allows us to do is to make the wing more aerodynamic, to have control over the shape of the wing, but also the structure. So this is a fuselage section. This is very different than what has been done in the past. In the past, in most airplanes that you fly today, will have metal fuselage. This is carbon fiber fuselage. And it's not just using carbon fiber, but it's using it efficiently in manufacturing. So what you're seeing here is, you're seeing this fuselage is being produced in a barrel, and it's wound, and it's integrated. And so we have very few fasteners that we need to put in there, very few joints. And it just allows us to reduce the weight of the airplane and make it stronger and much more fuel efficient. So the materials technology is really critical here, and the manufacturing technology. I mentioned that composite manufacturing facility that we have in Munich to develop some of these technologies. And then, of course, the systems. Now, we're not going to get into this too much because this is a lot of engineering stuff, but the technology is applied in systems as well to reduce weight, to make things more efficient. But one of the key things about using technology in airplanes, our new airplanes like the 787, they follow multiple systems. So they're tracking 10,000 different parameters. That's a lot of data that's coming off the airplane. What that allows us to do with the airlines is use predictive data to figure out when an airplane's going to need maintenance and that kind of thing. From a passenger standpoint, what that means is fewer delays. From an airline perspective, it means lower maintenance cost, and it means the airplane will be more reliable. So that's another key area of the technology. And then in the engine, of course, the engine's a whole nother story of technology. Even though jet engines have been around for a long time now, the technology being involved in jet engines is still increasing rapidly. So if you look at today's engine technology, it's 15 to 20% more efficient than the previous engine technology. The engines we're developing today for airplanes that are going to start delivering 10 years from now will be 10 to 15% more efficient than the engines that are being used today. So all those things together allow us to build an airplane with new technology that reduces the fuel consumption by 20 to 25%. And like I said, that's really important from an airline perspective because it helps them reduce their costs and helps them reduce the impact of variations in fuel. It also reduces the CO2, and that's really important because with air travel growing, with 4 billion people flying today, and 15 years from now, that will be 8 billion people. So we need to find ways to continually make air travel more fuel efficient. So that's a good example of how we apply technology on airplanes. And again, what does that mean for people that are traveling, people that are walking around this trade show right now? It means that airlines, because they have an airplane that's more efficient, that can fly farther, they can open up new markets. And so on this chart, you'll see these are all new nonstop markets that are being served by a new technology airplane, the 787. So these markets before, these routes, previously, you had to go through a hub or you had to take 1 or 2 stops. So this is really important for passengers because now they can go nonstop. It's also important for the environment because by going nonstop, you use less fuel, you waste less fuel, you generate less CO2. And so this is a way to help make the whole system better for the passengers, and better for the airlines, and better for the environment. So a good view of the relevance and importance of technology. So I know that's a lot of engineering stuff. We are an engineering company. That's what we focus on. But what about the passenger experience? We've all flown in airplanes today. It feels like airlines are, making the seats smaller, putting them closer together. Just so you know, Boeing doesn't make those decisions. Those are decisions that our customers make. We don't decide what kind of seats to put in the airplane or how close to put them together. I just want you guys to know that. But what we can do is we can control the experience for everybody. So using the same technology, the way that we're changing air travel is we are improving the passenger experience for everybody, regardless of whether you're in economy or business. If you're in a tight pitch seat, a narrow seat, you're going to see these benefits, and that's what we've seen as the 787 has come out. Cleaner air, we have new air filtration systems, improved humidity so that it feels better, less dry on board the airplane, better temperature control, lower cabin altitude. This is just another way of making the experience better, the air cleaner, more like being outdoors on a nice day. And then we've also used this technology for a smoother flight. If you've ever flown and there's been turbulence, we now have a turbulence suppression system that's all driven by those systems, the technology we put into the systems that can counteract turbulence, so you have a smoother flight. Now the interesting thing is, you have a smoother flight, you never really knew there was turbulence in the first place. So it's kind of a hard thing for us to explain to people, but it does make a difference. And at the end of the day, the passengers feel better when they arrive at their destination. So that might mean that not only can they fly direct now and not go through a hub, but they'll feel better when they get there. So they can do more things, do more activities, spend more money on charter activities and those types of things. One of the things that passengers really notice about these new technology 787s are the windows. And again, I direct you over to the Air Europa display over here to see the windows. They're electronically dimmable, which is kind of cool, but they're really big. And I want to put that into perspective. So most of the airplanes flying today have a window of this shape and location. And so that's what you see mostly today. Our competitors building a window that's bigger. That's nice. That's a little bit bigger than what you see on existing technology airplanes. But here's the 787. The 787, we decided, because we're building out of these new technology materials, we can have a much bigger window. And what we found is when people can see more when they fly, when they can see the sky and they can see the land, they feel better. It's one of those things. They want to feel better. And if you're sitting in the middle, you can still see out the window. So even with all this stuff that I talked about to reduce the fuel consumption, this is the thing that passengers really notice the most. So, and it comes through in our passenger surveys, a better response. That's good. It encourages us to put more of this technology in future airplanes. And it also is good for the environment. So Air Europa is one of our great partners here that has 787-8s and -9s, the most technologically advanced airplanes today, and I hope you get a chance to fly one of them. If you do, let us know how the experience was for you. But each one of those 787s that Air Europa flies that replaces one of their older airplanes saves 5.5 tons of fuel per year. So just by flying that one airplane, they're saving 5.5 tons of 5.5 tons of fuel per flight, which works out to be 4,000 tons of fuel per year. So that's a lot of fuel saved. That's a lot of CO2 that's not produced in the atmosphere. So it's really good for the airlines. It's really good for the passengers. And these airplanes have become very, very popular. There's now 787s flying today. We have 620 of them flying today. There's over 200 million passengers that have flown the 787. And every time they fly, they're saving CO2 and fuel versus an older technology airplane. So that's a good example of how we utilize technology at Boeing. We're constantly developing new technologies. We probably develop a lot of technologies that we don't use, but this is a good example on the technologies that make it into new airplane production. Now, having said that, the 787, it's been out for a few years now. In last year, we introduced our 737 MAX, which is a new technology airplane. Air Europa will introduce that airplane here shortly. That airplane, again, using some similar technologies, engine technologies and whatnot, we're able to reduce the fuel consumption by 15 to 20% on that airplane versus the airplanes that it's replacing. And then in 2020, we're introducing a new 777X, which will replace the 777 that's flying today. Again, that's another 15% fuel efficiency, brings a lot of the 787 technologies and applies them to the 777. We're working on the next airplane after that, 2025-ish. And then we're also doing a lot of new technology things, which you see right here, with autonomous flight, with carrying cargo. We just came out with a new cargo Demonstrator that will carry 500 pounds of cargo autonomously. This is the kind of thing that you might see in the future for traveling around cities. One of the things to keep in mind today with airplanes like the 787, for a distance of more than about 300 kilometers or 500 kilometers, it's more efficient to fly than drive. So in the future, if we use technology properly, it may be more efficient to fly between parts of the city on one of these autonomous vehicles that we're working on for the future than it is to drive. So those are some of the things that we're working on right now. And I hope that gives you a good feel for what we try to do, what we're doing here in the Madrid office, and the importance of doing those things so that all these people can travel and we can continue to grow as an industry. So with that.